The marriage contract sat on the dining table like a death sentence, and Helena Karst knew her parents had already signed away her future before she'd even been told. She stood in the doorway of her family's modest brownstone apartment, staring at the ornate document with its gold-embossed edges and archaic language. Her mother wouldn't meet her eyes. Her father sat rigid in his chair, jaw clenched, looking older than his 53 years. "You sold me," Helena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We had no choice." Her mother finally spoke, twisting her hands together. "The debts, Helena. Lord Garrison holds every loan we've taken for the past decade. The business, this house, your brother's medical bills, so you gave him me instead." Her father slammed his palm on the table. "Don't you dare make this sound simple. Garrison gave us an ultimatum. Marry you to him, or watch your brother die when they repossess his medication. What would you have us do?" Helena felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. She was 22 years old, a graduate student in art history, and she'd met Lord Marcus Garrison exactly twice. Both times his eyes had crawled over her like insects and his smile had promised cruelty. He was a wealthy human lord from one of the old families, the kind that still believed in arranged marriages and treating women like property, the kind that modern laws somehow never quite touched. "There has to be another way," she said. "There isn't." Her father's voice cracked. "The contract is legally binding. It's already filed with the city magistrate. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Helena grabbed her coat and fled the apartment, ignoring her mother's calls behind her. She ran down the steps and into the twilight streets of New Amsterdam, the modern city's glass skyscrapers rising around her like crystalline trees. The old world and new collided here, constantly ancient families like Garrison's wielding power through legal loopholes that dated back centuries, while everyone else scrambled to survive in the changing world. She walked without direction, her breath misting in the October air, until she found herself in the historic district where the oldest buildings still stood. Gas lamps flickered to life along cobblestone streets, and she realized she was standing in front of the Obsidian Rose, a club she'd heard whispered about but never dared enter. It was a vampire establishment. Since the unveiling 15 years ago, when vampires had revealed themselves to humanity, the world had shifted on its axis. Treaties had been signed, territories negotiated, laws rewritten. Vampires lived openly now, though they kept mostly to their own districts, their own courts. Most humans went their entire lives without meeting one. Helena had certainly never been this close to their world. The door opened and a woman emerged, pale as moonlight, with hair like spun silver cascading down her back. Her eyes were the color of garnets, and when she glanced at Helena she smiled with sharp white teeth. "Lost, little human? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Helena started backing away. "The rose is open to all," the woman said. "If you're brave enough." Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the thought of Garrison's hands on her in 3 weeks. But Helena straightened her spine and walked through the door. The interior was more elegant than any place she'd ever been. Dark wood and crimson velvet, crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light across walls, hung with Renaissance paintings, originals, she realized with shock. A string quartet played in one corner, the musicians human but clearly well paid, and everywhere vampires. They were beautiful and terrible, just like the stories said. Pale and perfect, moving with predatory grace, their laughter like wind chimes. Most had the characteristic white or silver hair, though she spotted a few with black or deep red. Their eyes glowed softly in the dim light, red, gold, violet, silver. Helena felt every one of them notice her entrance, felt the weight of immortal attention like pressure against her skin. She almost ran. But then a waiter appeared. Human, offering her a drink menu as if this were any normal establishment. She ordered wine with shaking hands and found a small table in a corner, trying to make herself invisible while her mind raced. What was she even doing here? What did she hope to find? "A human alone at the Rose," a voice said, deep and resonant. "Either very brave or very foolish." Helena looked up and forgot how to breathe. He was the most striking man she'd ever seen. Tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit tailored so perfectly it looked like shadows given form. His hair was pure white, falling to his shoulders in a straight silk curtain, and his eyes were molten silver. His face was all sharp angles and aristocratic lines, inhumanly beautiful, and when he smiled slightly she saw the pointed canines. "May I sit?" She should say no, should leave. But she found herself nodding. He moved like liquid night, settling into the chair across from her with impossible grace. Up close she could see the way his skin seemed to glow faintly, luminescent as pearl. He wore rings on his long fingers, ancient-looking things with symbols she didn't recognize. "I am Vladmir Konstantin," he said, and his accent was something old world from no country she could name. "And you are troubled. How do you? I can hear your heartbeat." Smell the salt of tears you haven't let fall. See the tension in every line of your body. His silver eyes held hers and she couldn't look away. What brings a human woman to a vampire club, alone, radiating such beautiful despair? Beautiful. He called her despair beautiful. It should have sounded cruel, but instead it sounded like he understood. I'm getting married, she heard herself say. In 3 weeks. To a man I don't love, a man I'm afraid of, and you cannot refuse? It's a contract, legally binding. My parents signed it to save my brother's life. If I refuse, my family loses everything. Vladmir leaned back, studying her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but instead felt like being truly seen for the first time. What is this man's name? Lord Marcus Garrison. Something flickered across Vladmir's perfect face. Ah, yes, I know of him. He has particular tastes, none of them kind. Helena's stomach turned. You know him? I know of many human lords. Their cruelty often intersects with vampire territory in ways that displease us. He tilted his head. This contract. It is filed with the city magistrate? She nodded. And therefore subject to the covenant laws, which means it can be bought. Helena's breath caught. What? Under the treaty laws, any human contract can be purchased by a supernatural entity if the price is met and the purchase serves a legitimate purpose. Vladmir's smile grew, showing those lethal teeth. It's a protection clause, originally meant to prevent humans from being bound into servitude to vampires. But it works both ways. You mean, someone could buy my contract? Free me from marrying Garrison? Buy it, yes. Free you, not exactly. The marriage clause would transfer to the purchaser. You would be legally bound to marry whoever buys the contract. Helena's hope crumbled as quickly as it had risen. So I'd just be trading one forced marriage for another. Perhaps. Or perhaps you might trust a vampire more than you trust Lord Garrison. Vladmir stood in one fluid motion. Think on it. If you decide you wish to pursue this option, return to the Rose tomorrow night. Ask for me by name. Wait, Helena said as he turned to leave. Who are you? I mean, I know your name, but I am old, he said simply. And I have never enjoyed seeing the innocent destroyed by cruel men. Tomorrow night, Helena Karst. The choice will be yours. He vanished into the crowd of vampires before she could ask how he knew her name. Helena walked home in a daze. Her apartment, a tiny studio she rented near the university, felt even smaller than usual as she collapsed onto her bed and stared at the ceiling. Could she really do this? Trade a marriage to a human monster for one to a vampire? But Vladmir hadn't felt monstrous. Dangerous, yes. Powerful, absolutely. But not cruel. Not like Garrison, whose eyes promised pain. She spent the next day researching. Vampire contract law was complex, but she found references to the clause Vladmir had mentioned. It was real, used rarely but documented. A vampire could purchase a human contract for any sum both parties agreed upon, and the contract would transfer entirely. But marriage, she would still have to marry whoever bought it. By sunset, Helena had made her decision. She returned to the Obsidian Rose. The same pale woman was at the door and smiled knowingly. He's waiting for you. 3rd floor, private salon. A human attendant led Helena through the club and up a winding staircase to a room that looked like it belonged in a palace. More paintings, originals by masters she recognized from her studies, a fireplace carved from black marble, furniture that was probably worth more than her entire building, and Vladmir standing by the window, silhouetted against the night sky. He turned as she entered. Tonight he wore deep burgundy, and his white hair was pulled back, revealing the sharp lines of his face. He looked like a prince from a dark fairy tale. You came, he said. I want to know more. About this contract purchase. About what it would mean. Direct, I appreciate that. He gestured to a chair and she sat, and he took the seat across from her. Here is the truth, Helena. I can buy your contract from Garrison. I have more than enough wealth and the legal standing to do so. The contract would transfer to me entirely. You would be bound to marry me instead of him. And then what? You'd own me? His expression darkened. I would never own you. The marriage would be legal, but it would be what we made of it. A partnership or simply a formality. Your freedom would be your own. Why would you do this? You don't know me. I know Garrison, Vladmir said, and now his voice carried an edge of anger. He has hurt several women under the protection of vampire families. Associates, employees, friends. We could not touch him directly. The treaty laws prevent unprovoked vampire intervention in human affairs. But this is different. If you consent to the contract transfer, I am well within my rights to purchase it. And you would be under my protection, which means he could never touch you. Helena's mind reeled. You want to marry me to protect me from him? I want to offer you a choice. Stay bound to Garrison and face whatever he has planned. Or accept a different bond, one where I promise you will be safe, free to live your life, and ask for nothing you do not wish to give. There has to be a catch. Vladmir's smile was sad. The catch is that you would be tied to me legally for some time. Vampire marriages can be dissolved, but it requires paperwork and time. A year, perhaps two, before you could be fully free, but you would be alive and unharmed. Can you say the same if you marry Garrison? Helena thought of the rumors she'd heard about Garrison's first wife. The woman had left him after 6 months, fled the city, and never spoke of what happened behind closed doors. The second wife had lasted 3 months. If I say yes, she said slowly, what happens next? I present Garrison with an offer he cannot refuse. The vampire courts have significant influence, and I have more than most. He will accept the sale. The contract will be transferred to me. We will need to marry within the original timeline to satisfy the legal requirements, so within 3 weeks. After that, you may live where you wish, study as you planned, pursue your dreams. I ask only that you allow me to ensure your safety and that you appear at my side for certain formal occasions that require a spouse. That's all it is. You would have your own rooms, your own life. I am not a monster, Helena. I am simply old and tired of watching cruel men destroy bright futures. She should be terrified, should run. But looking into those silver eyes, she felt something else entirely. Trust, maybe. Or just desperate hope. Okay, she whispered, yes. Buy the contract. Vladmir's expression transformed into something fierce and protective. You will not regret this. I swear it on my honor and my name. He produced papers. He'd had them prepared, she realized, and she signed with shaking hands. He signed as well, his signature an elaborate flourish, and then made a phone call in a language she didn't recognize. Ancient and flowing, beautiful to hear even without understanding it. It's done, he said, ending the call. By tomorrow evening, Garrison will have his offer. By law, he has 48 hours to respond, but he'll accept immediately. The money I'm offering is more than his pride is worth. How much? Helena asked. Does it matter? I want to know what I'm worth to you. Vladmir met her eyes. 5 million human dollars. But you are worth far more than that. I'm simply paying what will make him leave you alone forever. Helena felt faint. I can't ever repay that. I don't want repayment. I want you safe. He stood and offered his hand. Come, let me show you where you'll live. He led her from the rows to a car waiting outside, a sleek black thing that probably cost more than her education. The driver was vampire, pale and silent, and they drove through the city to the vampire district, where the buildings grew older and more ornate. Finally, they stopped before a mansion that looked like it had stood for centuries, all Gothic arches and intricate stonework. This is your home? Helena breathed. One of them. And yours now, too. Inside was even more overwhelming. Soaring ceilings, art everywhere, furniture that belonged in museums. But Vladmir led her past all of it to the 3rd floor and opened a door onto a suite of rooms that made her apartment look like a closet. Your space, he said. Bedroom, bathroom, study, sitting room, all private. The door locks from the inside and I will never enter without permission. The house staff is both human and vampire, all trustworthy, all bound by honor codes to protect those who reside here. You may come and go as you please, though I ask that you take security with you until we're certain Garrison has accepted his loss. Helena walked through the rooms in a daze. The bedroom alone was larger than her entire studio, with a bed that looked like a cloud and windows overlooking a private garden. The study had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves already filled with art history texts and classic literature. The bathroom had a tub the size of a small pool. How did you know what books I'd like? She asked. I may have done some research after you left last night. I wanted you to feel comfortable if you chose to accept. He'd prepared all this in a single day, just in case she said yes. Helena turned to face him, this impossibly beautiful vampire who was saving her from a nightmare she'd thought inescapable. Why are you really doing this? She asked. Vladmir was quiet for a long moment. Because I am old enough to have seen too many bright souls extinguished by cruelty. Because I have the power to prevent it in this case. And because when I saw you last night, looking so lost and so strong all at once, I thought that perhaps fate had given me the chance to do something good for once. How old are you? Very. A ghost of a smile. Old enough that 3 years seems like nothing. Old enough to be patient. Patient for what? For you to decide who you wish to become, free from fear. He moved toward the door. Rest tonight. Tomorrow much will change. But know that you are safe here, Helena. I give you my word. He left, closing the door softly behind him, and Helena sank onto the bed and finally let herself cry. But this time, they were tears of relief. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Garrison accepted the contract sale immediately, as Vladmir had predicted, though Helena's phone exploded with furious messages from her parents. They couldn't understand why she'd done this, how she'd even managed it. She texted back simple explanations. She'd found another way. She was safe. The family debts would still be cleared as promised. Her father called, raging. A vampire, Helena? You're marrying a vampire instead? Are you insane? I'm marrying someone who won't hurt me. she said quietly. That's all that matters. Her mother was crying in the background. Helena ended the call and blocked their numbers for now. She'd reconcile with them eventually, but she couldn't deal with their fear and anger when she was still processing everything herself. Vladmir was true to his word about giving her space. She saw him only twice in those first days, once at breakfast where he was polite and distant, asking about her comfort and needs. Once in the evening when he found her in the library and they talked for an hour about art and history. He was remarkably knowledgeable, and she realized he must have lived through many of the periods she studied. He'd seen the Renaissance firsthand, watched the Baroque masters work, witnessed history she could only read about. What was it like, she asked, living through all that, beautiful and terrible in equal measure? Humans create such wonders and such horrors, often in the same lifetime. His silver eyes were distant. We vampires are capable of both as well, of course. Immortality doesn't make us wise, only experienced. How did you become a king? His expression shifted. Ah, you heard that. The staff call you Your Majesty when they think I'm not listening. I was born to it in a time before your country existed. Vampire royalty is complicated, territorial and hereditary both. I rule the northern courts, which includes this city and much of the surrounding region. It's not the absolute power human kings once held, but it carries responsibility and influence. So I'm marrying a king, Helena said faintly. You're marrying a man who happens to hold a title. The title changes nothing about the promises I made you. But it did change things, Helena realized. She wasn't just becoming a vampire's wife in name only. She was becoming a queen, at least in title. The thought was absurd and overwhelming. The wedding was planned for the following week, hastily arranged to meet the contract timeline. Vladmir's staff handled everything, consulting with Helena on her preferences but taking care of all actual logistics. It would be a small ceremony, legally binding but private, just witnesses required by law and a handful of Vladmir's court. The night before the wedding, Helena couldn't sleep. She wandered the mansion in a silk robe one of the staff had provided, exploring rooms she hadn't yet seen. She found Vladmir in what looked like a study, sitting before a fireplace with a book that appeared ancient. Can't rest? He asked without looking up. Too much in my head. Come sit, company might help. She settled into the chair beside his and he poured her wine from a crisp decanter. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire. Are you afraid? Vladmir asked finally. A little. Not of you. Just of everything changing. Everything has already changed. Tomorrow simply makes it official. Do you ever regret it? Being immortal, watching everything change around you? Often, he admitted. But I've learned to find joy in small things. A good book, a beautiful painting, a conversation that challenges me. These things make eternity bearable. Have you ever been married before? Really married, not like this? His jaw tightened. Once. Very long ago. She was human. She chose to be turned so we could be together. What happened? She lived 200 years as a vampire and then walked into the sun one day. Immortality was not what she'd imagined. The weight of it broke her. His voice was carefully neutral. But Helena heard the pain beneath. I have not allowed myself to love since then. It seemed kinder not to. Helena's heart ached for him. I'm sorry. It was 3 centuries ago. The wound is scarred, if not healed. He looked at her then, really looked, and she felt the intensity of his attention like heat. I tell you this so you understand I don't take any of this lightly. Marriage, even one of convenience, is sacred to my kind. I will honor it and honor you, Helena. You have my word, I believe you, she said, and meant it. The wedding took place at midnight in the mansion's chapel, a room Helena hadn't seen before. It was all dark wood and stained glass, candles everywhere casting dancing shadows. Vladmir wore black that made him look like a shadow king, and Helena wore a gown his staff had provided, simple white silk that fit perfectly, elegant without being ostentatious. The ceremony was brief, conducted by a vampire elder in that same ancient language Vladmir sometimes used, then repeated in English for her benefit. They exchanged rings, silver bands carved with symbols that Vladmir quietly told her meant protection and honor. When they were pronounced married, Vladmir kissed her hand, not her lips, a gesture that somehow felt more intimate. Welcome to immortal politics, Your Majesty, whispered one of the vampire witnesses, a woman with violet eyes who smiled genuinely at Helena. You've caused quite a stir. The reception was small, just drinks and conversation with a dozen members of Vladmir's inner court. They were all unfailingly polite to Helena, though she felt their curiosity like a physical thing. A human queen was unusual, apparently. Most vampires married their own kind. They'll warm to you, Vladmir murmured as they stood together, his hand resting lightly on her lower back. Give them time to see what I see. What do you see? She asked. Strength, intelligence, a spine of steel wrapped in gentleness. His silver eyes met hers. Someone worth protecting. Helena felt her breath catch. This was supposed to be a marriage of convenience, a legal protection. So why did his words make her heart race? The guests left eventually, and Helena retreated to her rooms while Vladmir disappeared into his wing of the mansion. She lay awake in her enormous bed, wearing the silk nightgown the staff had laid out, staring at the ceiling. She was married now, to a vampire king. The thought was surreal. A knock on her door made her jump. Yes, it's Vladmir. May I enter? She grabbed a robe and opened the door. He stood there looking uncertain for the first time since she'd met him, still in his wedding clothes. I wanted to make sure you were all right, that this hasn't all been too overwhelming. I'm okay. Just processing. Helena, I need you to understand something. He stepped closer and she caught his scents, something like winter night and old books and smoke. By vampire law, we are truly married now, which means you are under my protection absolutely. No one can harm you without answering to me. But it also means you are part of my court, my world. There will be those who test you, who try to find weakness or sow discord. You must be careful. You think someone will come after me? I think that human and vampire politics are both vicious, and a human queen is an unknown variable that many will want to control or eliminate. His expression was fierce. But I have not survived this long by being careless. You will have guards, ones you won't always see, and you will have me. I will not let anyone hurt you. The intensity of his protectiveness should have been frightening. Instead, Helena felt safer than she had in weeks. Thank you, she said softly, for all of this, for saving me. You saved yourself by being brave enough to walk into the rose that night. I simply provided an alternative. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers were cool but gentle. Sleep well, my queen. Tomorrow your new life truly begins. He left before she could respond, and Helena touched her ear where his fingers had been. Feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with temperature, the next few weeks settled into a routine. Helena returned to her graduate studies, now traveling with 2 vampire guards who stayed invisible but present. Her professors and classmates knew she'd gotten married but didn't know to whom she kept that detail private. The art history department was her sanctuary, the one place that felt normal. At home, and the mansion was starting to feel like home. She saw Vladmir most evenings. They fell into a pattern of dining together, talking about their days, sharing thoughts on books and art and philosophy. He was remarkably easy to talk to, and Helena found herself looking forward to those conversations more than she wanted to admit. He never pushed for more, never entered her space without invitation, never suggested their arrangement be anything beyond what they'd agreed. But there were moments when his hand lingered on hers, when their eyes met across a room, when she caught him watching her with something that looked like longing that made her wonder if the attraction she was starting to feel was mutual. A month after the wedding, trouble came. Helena was leaving campus when a car pulled up beside her. Not one of Vladmir's. Before her guards could react, someone grabbed her, pulling her toward the vehicle. She screamed and fought, and then suddenly her attacker was flying backward, thrown by one of her guards who'd moved with supernatural speed. Get her home, the guard snarled to his partner. Now. Helena was bundled into Vladmir's car, shaking with adrenaline, and they sped back to the mansion. Vladmir met them at the door, his expression terrifying in its cold fury. What happened? The guard explained. Attempted kidnapping, human attackers clearly planned. They'd gotten away while he protected Helena. Vladmir pulled Helena into his arms, the first time he'd truly held her, and she felt him trembling with rage. Are you hurt? No, I'm okay. They barely touched me. They will die for this, he said quietly, and she knew he meant it. That night she couldn't bear to be alone. She went to Vladmir's wing and knocked on his door. He opened it immediately, still dressed as if he'd been pacing. Helena, can I stay here tonight? I don't want to be alone. His expression softened. Of course, always. His rooms were similar to hers but darker, more masculine. He led her to a sitting room and built up the fire, then sat beside her on a velvet sofa, not quite touching but close enough that she felt his presence like warmth. Who would try to take me? She asked. I have suspicions. Rivals who wish to test my resolve. Perhaps even Garrison, though he'd be foolish to break treaty laws so blatantly. His jaw clenched. I will find out. And I will make an example that ensures no one ever tries again. I don't want you to start a war because of me. There won't be a war. Simply a very clear message about what happens to those who threaten what is mine. He looked at her and his silver eyes were blazing. You are my queen, Helena. My wife. An attack on you is an attack on me. I will not let it stand. She should be frightened by his intensity. Instead, she felt her heart race for entirely different reasons. Vladmir, why does this matter so much to you? I know you said you wanted to help, But this feels like more than just honor or duty." He was quiet for a long moment. "It began as that. A chance to do something good, to save someone from a fate I knew would be cruel. But somewhere in these past weeks it became more. You have become more to me than I intended." "What do you mean?" "I mean that I find myself listening for your footsteps in the hall. That I choose books I think you'll enjoy and leave them where you'll find them. That I count the hours until dinner because I know I'll see you. That the thought of someone harming you fills me with a rage I haven't felt in centuries." He turned to face her fully. "I am developing feelings I swore I would never allow myself again, Helena. And I cannot seem to stop them." Helena's breath caught. "I thought this was just a legal arrangement." It was supposed to be. But you are brilliant and kind and so beautifully strong, and I am not as immune to such things as I believed myself to be." His voice dropped. "Tell me I'm alone in this. Tell me you feel nothing, and I will step back. I will honor our original agreement and ask for nothing more. But if there is any chance you might feel even a fraction of what I feel, I need to know." Helena's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Could she deny the way she looked for him in every room? The way his smile made her feel warm? The way she'd started imagining what it might be like if their marriage were real in every sense? "You're not alone," she whispered. The joy that flooded his face was almost painful in its intensity. "Helena, I've been trying not to feel it," she continued, "because this was supposed to be simple. You were helping me, and I was supposed to just be grateful and eventually leave. But I don't want to leave. I like living here. I like our dinners and conversations. I like the way you look at me like I'm something precious. I like you, Vladmir, more than I should." He reached out slowly and cupped her face in his cool hands. "You can like me as much as you wish. You can feel anything you wish. There is no should or shouldn't here. Only what we choose." "What do we choose?" she asked. "I choose you, wholly and truly, if you'll have me. Not as a convenience or an arrangement, but as a husband in truth. As a partner. As someone who adores you and wishes to spend whatever time you'll give me making you happy." "I'm human," Helena said. "I'll age, I'll die. You'll live forever. Then I will treasure every year, every day, every moment I have with you. And when your time comes, I will grieve and I will remember and I will know that I was blessed to have known you at all." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's the truth of loving a human when you're immortal, but the love is worth the loss. I learned that long ago, and I'm brave enough to risk it again. For you, if you want this. If you want me." Helena leaned forward and kissed him. His lips were cool but soft, and he made a sound low in his throat as he pulled her closer. The kiss deepened, and she felt desire ignite through her body like fire. His hands were in her hair, her hands gripping his shoulders, and when they finally broke apart they were both breathing hard. "I want this," she said. "I want you. I want us to be real." The smile he gave her could have lit the whole mansion. "Then we are real, from this moment forward." He kissed her again, slower this time, reverent, like she was something holy. And then he lifted her in his arms. She gasped at the casual display of strength and carried her to his bedroom. "Only if you're certain," he said, setting her gently on the bed. "We can wait. We can take time." "I'm certain," Helena said, reaching for him. "I've never been more certain of anything." That night they made their marriage real in every way. And Helena learned that vampire lovers were attentive and patient, and capable of pleasure she'd never imagined. Vladmir worshipped her body like he was memorizing every detail, and when he finally fed from her with permission, asked so carefully the intimacy of it brought tears to her eyes. "I love you," he whispered against her throat as the sun began to rise. "I know it's too soon, but I do. I love you, Helena." "I love you too," she said, and meant it with her whole heart. They fell asleep tangled together as dawn broke, and Helena felt safer and happier than she ever had in her life. The next weeks were blissful. They were truly married now in every sense, and Helena moved her belongings into Vladmir's wing. They shared a bed, shared their lives, learned each other's rhythms and needs. The court noticed the change immediately, and the vampires who'd been reserved before began treating Helena with genuine warmth. She was clearly beloved by their king, and that earned their respect. Helena finished her semester with high marks, and Vladmir attended her final presentation on Renaissance portraiture, sitting in the back of the lecture hall looking proud. Her professors were charmed by her mysterious husband, and Helena had to hide her amusement at how carefully Vladmir played the part of a normal, if wealthy spouse. But trouble hadn't forgotten them. It came during a court gathering, a formal event where various vampire nobles came to pay respects and conduct business. Helena stood at Vladmir's side in a gown of midnight blue, wearing the crown that marked her as queen, a delicate thing of silver and sapphires that Vladmir had commissioned for her. A vampire she didn't recognize approached, pale and beautiful like all his kind, but with eyes that glittered with malice. "Your Majesty," he said to Vladmir, bowing shallowly. "Congratulations on your unexpected marriage." "Lord Casimir," Vladmir said coolly. "I don't recall inviting you. I came on behalf of the southern courts. We're curious about your choice of bride. A human queen is unprecedented in recent century. Then, consider me a trendsetter." Casimir's smile was sharp. "Of course. Though one wonders about the security implications. Humans are so fragile, so easily influenced or removed." Helena felt Vladmir tense beside her, but she spoke before he could. "Is that a threat, Lord Casimir?" "Simply an observation, Your Majesty." He turned his attention to her fully, and his gaze felt like a predator sizing up prey. "You're quite brave taking on such a role. I hope you understand the responsibility, the target it paints on you." "I understand perfectly, and I'm not afraid." "Perhaps you should be." Vladmir moved faster than Helena could track, suddenly gripping Casimir's throat, lifting him off the ground. The entire room fell silent. "You come into my home," Vladmir said, his voice deadly soft, "and threaten my wife. Give me one reason I shouldn't tear your head from your shoulders right now." Casimir choked, clawing at Vladmir's hand. "Treaty law. The treaty allows me to execute anyone who threatens my family on my own territory. You just did so in front of 50 witnesses. Vladmir's silver eyes were blazing. "Last chance. Explain yourself or die." "The South wants alliance," Casimir gasped. "Sent me to test your resolve. To see if the rumors are true." "What rumors? That you've gone soft, that a human has weakened you?" Vladmir threw Casimir across the room. The vampire lord crashed into a wall hard enough to crack stone. "Return to your masters," Vladmir said. "Tell them that I am not soft, that my queen has made me stronger, not weaker, that any threat to her will be met with absolute destruction. And tell them that if they wish for alliance, they will show proper respect or they'll have war instead." Casimir fled, and the room erupted in whispers. Vladmir turned to Helena, his expression transforming from fury to concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Shaken, but fine." He pulled her close, right there in front of his entire court. "I meant what I said. Anyone who threatens you will answer to me. I don't care what court they're from or what power they hold." Helena buried her face in his shoulder, feeling his arms solid around her. "I know. I believe you." The party ended shortly after, and back in their rooms, Vladmir paced like a caged predator. "I should have killed him, should have made a clearer example." "You did enough. You showed you're not weak and you didn't start a war. That's a good outcome. It's not over. The southern courts have been pushing boundaries for years. Using you to test me is just the beginning." Helena caught his hand, stopping his pacing. "Then we deal with it. Together. Isn't that what marriage means?" He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "I cannot lose you. The thought of anything happening to you makes me want to burn the world. Nothing will happen to me. I have you protecting me. I'm not invincible, Helena. I'm powerful, but I'm not a god. And you're human, so terribly wonderfully human and mortal and breakable." She pulled back to look at him. "Is this about your first wife?" His expression cracked. "I failed her. I couldn't make immortality bearable for her, and she chose death over eternity with me. I won't fail you." "You didn't fail her, Vladmir. She made her choice, and that's not on you, and I'm not her. I'm not asking for immortality or forever. I'm just asking for now, and whatever time we have. Can that be enough?" "It has to be," he said quietly, "because I can't let you go." They held each other as night deepened around them, and Helena made a decision. If there were going to be threats, if she was going to be a target, she needed to be more than just Vladmir's protected wife. She needed to become a queen in truth. The next day she started training. Hand-to-hand combat with vampire instructors who were patient but demanding. Vampire law and politics with scholars who taught her the complex web of alliances and enmities. Court etiquette with advisors who showed her how to read subtle power plays and respond with grace. She learned to carry weapons, small blades that could be hidden in formal gowns, stakes that looked like hair ornaments. Vladmir watched her transformation with pride and growing respect. His soft human bride was developing steel, and it only made him love her more. 3 months after the incident with Casimir, Helena felt ready when the next challenge came. A formal summit between northern and southern courts, meant to address the growing tensions. Vladmir would attend as king, and Helena insisted on coming with him. "It could be dangerous," he warned. "I'm the queen. I should be there. You're also my heart, and I'd prefer to keep you. We're stronger together. You know that." He relented, though he insisted on tripling her security detail. The summit was held on neutral ground, an ancient castle that predated vampire-human coexistence. The southern delegation arrived with pomp and ceremony, led by Queen Serafina, a vampire so old and powerful that even Vladmir showed her respect. Vladmir Konstantin, Serafina said, her voice like silken knives. How long has it been? 3 centuries, your grace, and you bring a human to these proceedings. How quaint. Helena stepped forward before Vladmir could respond. Queen Helena Konstantin, it's an honor to meet you, your grace. Serafina's eyebrows rose. Well, she has courage at least. Come, child, let us speak privately while the men posture and negotiate. It wasn't a request. Vladmir looked ready to refuse, but Helena touched his arm. It's all right, I'll be fine. She followed Serafina to a private sitting room, acutely aware of the danger. This vampire was ancient and powerful and possibly hostile, but showing fear would be worse than the fear itself. Sit, Serafina said, settling gracefully into a chair. Tell me, Helena, why did you marry him, originally? To escape a forced marriage to a cruel human lord. Vladmir bought my contract and offered me a choice. And now I love him, and I'm learning to be the queen he deserves. Serafina studied her with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. You know you'll die and leave him grieving, yes, yet you stay, yes. Because the time we have is precious enough to be worth the pain of ending. Something shifted in Serafina's expression. My first husband was human, millennia ago, in a world you wouldn't recognize. He gave me 50 years before age took him, and I have mourned him ever since. But I would not trade those years for anything. Helena's breath caught. I didn't know. Few do. I've worn my grief privately for a very long time. Serafina leaned forward. I sent Casimir to test Vladmir because I needed to know if his attachment to you was weakness or strength, if you were a liability or an asset. I have my answer now, which is, you are his strength. He is fierce in protecting you, yes, but you also make him fight smarter. Value his alliances more, consider consequences. A good queen should do exactly that. Serafina smiled, and it was the first genuine warmth she'd shown. The South will align with the North, Helena, and we will ensure that no court threatens you or Vladmir. You have my word. Why? Because I see myself in you. A human loving a vampire, brave enough to face an immortal world. And because Vladmir deserves happiness after his long loneliness. You give him that. It would be cruel to destroy it. The alliance was formalized that night with treaties and ceremonies that Helena was still learning to understand. But she stood at Vladmir's side, wearing her crown, and felt every inch a queen. The southern courts bent knee to the north and to her, and it was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. On the journey home, Vladmir held her hand in the car. You impressed Serafina, that's nearly impossible. She impressed me too. She loved a human once. I know. She rarely speaks of it. She told me we make you stronger. Vladmir brought her hand to his lips. You make me better, stronger, wiser, happier. You make me want to be worthy of you. You already are. I will spend every day proving that I am. Back home, life settled into something beautiful. Helena completed her master's degree with honors, and Vladmir hosted a celebration that brought together her human colleagues and his vampire court in a gathering that would have been impossible just a year before. She started teaching part-time at the university, sharing her passion for art history with students who had no idea their gentle professor was a vampire queen. Her family reached out, eventually cautiously. Her father apologized for forcing the contract. Her mother wept with relief that Helena was happy. Her brother recovered now, his medical bills cleared, visited the mansion and stared around in awe. You're really married to a vampire king, he said. I really am, and you love him? So much it scares me sometimes. Then I'm happy for you, Hel. Even if this is the weirdest family situation ever. Helena laughed and hugged him. She was building bridges between her old life and new, creating something that felt whole. Years passed. 3, then 4. Helena aged from 22 to 26, and while Vladmir remained unchanged, their love only deepened. They traveled together to Paris to see art she'd only studied, to Venice where Vladmir showed her places he'd known in his youth, to hidden vampire cities beneath the earth where she met beings older than history. She became beloved in vampire circles, a human queen who treated all with respect and showed genuine interest in their immortal lives. She mediated disputes, advised Vladmir on matters that touched both worlds, and slowly helped broker peace between species that had been wary of each other since the unveiling. But immortality and mortality remained the shadow over their happiness. Helena was 28 when she brought it up seriously. They were in bed, her head on his chest, his fingers trailing through her hair. I want you to turn me, she said. Vladmir's hand stilled. Helena, I know what you're going to say. That I should live my human life, that I might regret immortality, that your first wife couldn't bear it. But I'm not her, Vladmir, and I don't want just a human lifetime with you. I want centuries. I want to see the world change, to be with you through it all. I want forever. You say that now. I've been saying it in my heart for 2 years, I'm sure. He sat up, forcing her to look at him. His silver eyes were anguished. If you come to hate what you become, I will never forgive myself. Then trust me not to hate it. Trust that I know my own mind and heart. Trust that my love for you is strong enough to bear eternity. The turning is painful, and there's no guarantee you'll survive it. I'll survive it, and you'll be with me." He was quiet for a long moment, and she saw the war in his expression, fear and hope battling each other. "If I do this," he finally said, "you must promise me something. If there ever comes a time when immortality becomes unbearable, when you cannot stand another year, you will tell me. Not choose the sun, not simply end it, but talk to me first. Let me try to help. Promise me that." "I promise. Then I will turn you. Because the thought of losing you to age is more terrifying than the risk of you choosing to leave me later. At least if you're immortal, I'll have more time to convince you that forever with me is worth living." Helena kissed him, pouring all her love and certainty into it. "It will be. I know it will be." They chose the winter solstice for the turning, the longest night of the year. Vladmir prepared her carefully, explaining what would happen, what she would feel, the pain as her body died and reformed, the hunger that would consume her at first, the strange new senses that would overwhelm her. "I'll be with you through all of it," he promised. Every moment. Helena invited her family to say goodbye to her human self. Her parents came, her brother and his new wife. They were frightened but trying to be supportive, and she hugged them all fiercely. "I'll still be me," she promised. "Just more." "Will we still see you?" her mother asked tearfully. "Of course. I'm not leaving you. I'll just be different." The turning happened in their private chambers on the longest night while snow fell outside. Vladmir held her on their bed, and she felt surprisingly calm as he bared his fangs. "I love you," he said, "in this life and whatever comes next. I love you too. Make me yours. Forever." He bit deep into her throat, and the pain was instant and absolute. But he held her through it, murmuring comfort in ancient languages as he drained her blood. She felt herself dying, felt her heart slowing, felt darkness creeping in. And then he bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. "Drink, my love, drink and be reborn." His blood was fire and ice and lightning all at once. It burned through her dying body, rewriting her from the inside out. She convulsed in his arms, screaming, and he held her tighter, taking her pain into himself as much as he could. The transformation took 3 days. 3 days of agony and delirium and moments of terrifying clarity. But Vladmir never left her side. He held her when she thrashed, fed her his blood when she needed it, whispered love and encouragement when she begged for death to end the pain. On the 4th morning, Helena opened her eyes and saw the world anew. Everything was sharper, clearer, more vivid. She could hear conversations happening rooms away, could smell snow and blood and ancient stone, could feel the weight of the sun beyond the walls, a presence she now had to avoid. And when she looked at Vladmir, she saw him truly for the first time, his aura, the power that rolled off him, the love that shone so bright it hurt. "How do you feel?" he asked quietly. "Hungry," she admitted, "but also amazing. Everything is so intense." He smiled and kissed her forehead. "Welcome to immortality, my queen, my wife, my equal now in truth." He taught her to feed, to hunt, to build her new strength and senses. The hunger was overwhelming at first, but he was patient, showing her how to take blood without killing, how to read the humans who volunteered to feed vampires. It was strange and terrible and exhilarating all at once. Her family visited a month later, after she had control of herself. They stared at her white skin, her now silver hair, her eyes that had shifted to a pale gold. But when she hugged them, they felt the same love, and eventually they relaxed. "You're really immortal now," her brother said, awed. "I really am. That's so weird. Tell me about it." But it felt right. Helena had never been more sure of a choice. She was faster now, stronger, dangerous, but she was also still herself, still loved art and books and long conversations, still felt joy and pain and hope, just all of it magnified through vampire senses. And she had Vladmir, truly had him now, in a way she never could have as a human. They were matched in strength and speed, could share blood and emotions, could love each other without the shadow of her mortality hanging over them. Years passed again. 10, 20. Helena remained frozen at 28 while the world aged around her. She watched her brother's children grow up, helped her aging parents until they passed peacefully, and said goodbye to the human life she'd known. But she'd gained so much more. She and Vladmir ruled the northern courts together, a partnership that became legendary. They brokered lasting peace with the southern courts, established new treaties with human governments, created schools where human and vampire children learned together. Helena's artwork she'd discovered she could paint now with her vampire precision and patience hung in galleries across the world. And through it all they loved each other with an intensity that never dimmed. Immortality gave them time to learn every facet of each other, to weather arguments and challenges, to grow together rather than apart. They traveled the world, collected art and experiences, made friends among both vampires and humans who accepted their unusual partnership. On their 50th wedding anniversary, they returned to the Obsidian Rose, the place where it had all begun. The club had changed over the decades, but it still held the same elegant darkness. They sat at the same table where Helena had first sat alone and desperate, and Vladmir held her hand. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Any of it?" Helena looked at him, her husband, her king, her eternal love, and smiled. "Not a single moment. Choosing you was the best decision I ever made." "Choosing you saved me," Vladmir said quietly. "I was going through eternity half alive, and you made me feel again, made me hope again. You gave me forever with purpose. We gave each other that, a real forever, not just a long existence." He raised her hand to his lips, and his eyes held all the love and devotion of 5 decades. "To the next 50 years then, and all the ones after that too, forever," Helena agreed. And there, in the place where a desperate human woman had once sought escape and found a vampire king instead, they sealed that promise with a kiss that tasted like blood and wine and eternal devotion. The world continued to change around them. Technology advanced, societies shifted, new generations rose and fell. But Helena and Vladmir remained constant vampire king and queen, partners in immortality. Proof that love could bridge any divide if both people were brave enough to choose it. Helena never regretted becoming a vampire. She missed the sun sometimes, missed the simple warmth of daylight. But she had starlight and moonlight and Vladmir's love, and those were enough, more than enough. They were everything. 100 years after their wedding, the vampire and human worlds held a joint celebration in their honor, a century of peace and cooperation that had begun with a marriage contract and transformed into something beautiful. Leaders from both species came to pay tribute, and Helena and Vladmir stood together, as they always had, facing the future as one. "What do you think the next 100 years will bring?" Helena asked as they danced together at the celebration. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together," Vladmir said. "That's all that matters," and it was. Whatever challenges or joys the future held, they would meet them side by side. A vampire king who had learned to love again, and a human woman who had chosen immortality to keep that love alive. 2 souls bound by choice and devotion, proving that true partnership could last forever. They danced through the night, surrounded by friends and allies, celebrating not just a century past but all the centuries to come. And when the party finally ended, and they returned home to the mansion that had been theirs for so long, they climbed the stairs to the room where it had all begun, where Vladmir had first promised Helena safety and freedom, where she had first admitted she loved him, where they had chosen each other over and over again. "No regrets?" Vladmir asked one more time, holding her close in the darkness. "Only that I didn't find you sooner," Helena said. "But we have forever now to make up for lost time." "Forever," he agreed, and kissed her with all the passion and tenderness of a century together, and countless more to come outside. Snow began to fall, blanketing the city in white. But inside their home, warmth and love and eternal devotion kept the darkness at bay. A vampire king and his chosen queen facing immortality together, their love story proof that the best romances weren't written by fate but chosen by brave hearts willing to risk everything for each other. And in the end, that choice made in desperation, cemented in love, and sustained through eternity was the greatest gift either of them could have asked for. Not a marriage contract bought and transferred, but a real partnership built on trust and devotion, and the determination to make forever beautiful. They had saved each other, these two. And they would keep saving each other, keep choosing each other, for all the endless nights to come. A perfect, eternal love that began with a contract and became something far more precious, a promise that would never break, a bond that would never fade, a romance that would last forever. Their story was complete, their love secured, their future bright with possibility. And as they held each other in the darkness, 2 immortal souls bound by choice and devotion, they knew that whatever eternity brought, they would face it together, always together. Forever and always.